I mean, just with family, just being intentional. I think my mindset is kind of shifting from, hey, I just want to grow this like big business to accomplish whatever these arbitrary goals that I have are, and hey, how can I use my business as a way to be there for my family more, to kind of reach some of these family goals that I have and do it in a more sustainable way than maybe what I have done in the past. And I just want to make sure it's a life-giving and it's worth it.
Hey you, I'm Mark, husband of one, father of three, maker of puns, climber of trees, grower of businesses, pitcher of tents, occasional cutter of cheese, word nerd, and lover of families. Oh no. Oh no, not yet. No. Here he comes. Where's my oar? Showed that Kraken who's boss. At least until like 2 p.m. this afternoon. I think I'll be due for another attack by then. Let's jump into it.
Hey, welcome to all of you bandits and chilies. This episode is an interview with Josh Kroehler, who has been married to his wife Molly for 10 years. They have 2 young boys and for the past 4 years have gone from being involved in his parents' business to taking it over, making some major changes and transitions, aiming to honor the past whilst preparing for the future. And with that comes a lot of firsts on the journey. So Josh, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Mark, for having me. This is actually my first podcast I'm joining, so I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, super excited to have you. So what's happening in the business? Give us a bit of the background and an extension of that little snapshot introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the first year that I'm running the business. Bought it from my parents at the end of last year after working with them for 4 years. And when I joined the business, we were at 1.1 roughly million in revenue, and we're roughly 1.4 million in revenue. So a little bit of growth in there, but there's just a lot of transitionary things that had to have happened, going from former owners to the new owner and the team that goes with it. And we've built out a really good team now, and I feel good about where we're heading. But yeah, you can imagine just updating a lot of technology, a lot of systems from where they were to where I wanted it to be. That took a lot of work, and obviously learning the business. There's so many ins and outs of a 33-year business that you have to learn, building a relationship with customers, all of that. So it's definitely been drinking through a fire hose over that time, but it's been fun, and I'm excited about where we're going.
Yeah, nice. From what you've learned in that drinking from a fire hose, if you could go back to the start and just give yourself like one quick, heads up piece of advice, like you're just there for 20 seconds and you can give yourself a heads up that might save you a few headaches, what would you tell yourself?
Oh man, so many things. I think that one of the things that this kind of goes hand in hand. So I drinking through a fire hose, like that was me purposely wanting to do that, right? So I'm going to listen to all the podcasts. I'm going to be listening to be on all the forums and things and trying to learn and grow. And so it's information overload, right? And so the ability to execute, I think I found, is way more important than having these awesome ideas that you never actually get to implement. And so part of it was I was taking on too much information too quickly. And so that limited my ability to execute because I was kind of scatterbrained. And so having more focus on what I'm doing. And then I think just getting really good at flexing that ability and flexing that muscle of executing and putting things into action. So I've been getting better at that. So when we say we want to do something as a team, or I want to do something, I'm going to figure out how to get it done and actually put it into action. And I think just one small example of that is this year we're moving into Fort Wayne, which is an hour away from us, Fort Wayne, Indiana. So it's in a different state. It's an hour over away from our shop. And we already service that area. And there was a lot of work that we were doing there, but we didn't have a physical presence there. We didn't show up on Google. We had some ads going and all that, but I was like, we need to rent some office space so we can show up on Google, get a GMB location. And so I was working through a family friend who had a shop that was going to lease us some space in there so we could do that without having to rent a full office space and all that. And man, the communication was just not great. And so something that was supposed to be happening in less than a month took like 3 months and we still weren't there. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to wait around for this person to come through on what they're said they were going to do. I'm just going to go rent a space. So literally from the moment I made that decision, at 24 hours later, I had leased a small 400 square foot office space, applied for the GMB, got that going. And like a week later, we were getting reviews on our location showing up on Google. And so that's just like a shift in my mindset of normally that might have like held me up and it would have taken a lot longer. I'm getting better at just being like, no, we're just going to make this happen and just move on. And I think that's really something I would tell myself 4 years ago is like, you got to pick one or two things that you really want to put into place and actually do it versus 10 things that you don't get across the finish line.
Yeah, 100%. The execution is what's actually going to move the needle. And yeah, I was talking with a guy earlier today actually about this, and it's like, because this is something that I struggle with. It's like if you can get the engine running and then tweak it once it's running, and you can see that like this belt is slipping and there's oil coming out of that hose or whatever. At least it's going, right? Like, you know what's up. Mm-hmm. But if you get caught on a step in the process, it's like you're just over engineering like this like supercharger, but the engine itself never actually gets completed because like this one little microcosm of the project is just it's like super shiny. It's really nice, but it's not part of a working system. That's like a real struggle for me. So with the team and the size of the business that you're at, I feel like a big part of that moving quickly and taking decisive action and execution, all of that really comes to good delegation and involving the team, working cohesively, all that kind of stuff. What's been your experience with that, especially since, as you mentioned, you've had like a bit of a changeover, changing of the guard to some extent within the team?
Yeah, I think we've gone through way more people on the team than I thought that we would. And I think part of that's just the nature of our culture. People, especially technicians, don't stay in roles as long as you think that they would. I think it's just part of, some of the people who had worked there for many years before I got there. Now you have new owners and they're used to doing things certain ways, and it can be really hard for people to change. So I think part of that's just natural, and getting the right people on the team has been really, really key. So people that see the vision, that what we're wanting to do in terms of building a really good culture, a really good company, people that you trust. And so I've been hit or miss with that, but I think we have a really good team right now. And delegation is something that I'm continually trying to get better at. It's not easy because you want to do it not necessarily your way, but you think you can do it the best, but you can't do everything. And so again, if someone can do something 80% of the way that you could, it's probably way better than you doing it 100% of the way because you don't have enough time in the day to do it all. And so I think for me, finding the right people was key, number one, and then getting good at actually letting them use their strengths and delegating to them in a really strong way. And so I think having clear checklists and roles and responsibility has been really helpful as we've gotten those into place, because then I know what people should be owning. And then I know how to delegate, what things I should be delegating to them. And even things on my plate, I realized like, hey, I don't need to be the one to get this over the finish line. So let's have my operations guy take it, or my office manager, and they're probably actually better at this than I am. And I found that out as I started delegating more, is that people actually were way better at things than I thought they were. And I was the one putting them in a box and limiting what they could do.
Yeah. So many times we're like the biggest bottleneck in our own business, even for the sake of it's delegated, but it's all still run through us. It's like maybe there's like there's a delegation, but there's not enough empowerment behind it, and so they have to run like all the decisions back, or that kind of stuff. Within like finding new stuff, obviously, an old way of doing things, people set in their ways, people naturally moving on. But in finding and hiring new stuff, how has that journey been? Have you had any disastrous hires? And what have you put in place in your hiring systems to minimize any repeats of such disaster hires?
Oh man. Yeah, I think you always have like some desperation hires, right? You're like, man, this position's been vacant for 3 months. We really need someone. This person checks a couple of the minimal boxes, and then you hire them. And then,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's breathing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They fogged up a mirror, so like we can put them on the team. No, I think with techs that's probably happened more often because it can be really hard to find people that meet our criteria and also want to do the technician role. And so sometimes when we maybe kind of trick ourselves into believing, no, this person, the couple of red flags that might be there, we're just going to ignore because it's probably not going to be a problem. And then we put them on the team, and then it is a problem, or they last a week and then they leave or whatever. But I think what we found is using our core values and hiring has been really helpful. And then from there, we use HireBus to kind of assess what roles they might be more naturally a good fit for versus other roles. And specifically in sales, it's been really helpful. So when someone scores a 1 or like basically less than 4 out of 10 in outside or inside sales, generally it matches their ability to be a good salesperson, and more so in taking initiative and getting things done quickly and not having to hold their hand on the sales front. So we use that. We also use the DISC profile, which that was helpful to an extent to understand maybe how someone's wired. So if someone doesn't have a D, which is like a dominant personality, anywhere in their profile, then there's a lot of times where you're feeling like you're having to always be holding their hand versus them being the one to take charge, I guess. And so we always look for someone to have D in their profile now, specifically for roles that have a little more autonomy or we need to take action. And again, you can't put someone in a box. We're not trying to say we understand people to a T, but these patterns definitely have held up, especially over 50 hires. You can start to see patterns emerge. And then the last piece we added this year was the Enneagram. And that also just helps to see how someone's wired. So someone in an office manager or a dispatcher role, we had someone in that role who was a 9. So that's a peacemaker. And in that office manager role, you're going to ruffle a lot of feathers, right? You're telling technicians where to go, that they need to work later. You're telling customers that we can't do X, Y, and Z. And if you have a peacemaker doing that, they're not gonna make the call to collect payment for someone who's overdue, and they don't want to make anyone upset. So that was not a good fit.
They need to be the kind of peacemaker that has a gun.
That has a gun. Yeah. And so now we have someone in that role who is a 3. So they're an achiever. And that's been such a better fit because they're able to have those tough conversations. They want to get their long list of responsibilities done and to make everything happen without me having to feel like I'm always nudging them or holding their hand along the way. So a couple of those personality assessments have been really helpful. Making sure they align with our core values has been really helpful. I could go on and on about that. There's different things we've done. Some of it's worked, some of it hasn't, but I feel like that's all pushing us in a better direction to make sure that when we do hire someone, we don't later look back at it and regret hiring them.
Yeah. I think for us, like pretty much every person that we've ever hired has impacted our hiring process somehow. Like there'll be a question that we have in our hiring, in our interview, or a line that we have in our job ad, or something that we have in a position description or whatever, that is there because of Sally. We remember, we don't want to see that again, so we put this in here because that was a problem. And yeah, we use HireBus as well. Actually, shameless plug through our school group, link in the description. We have a unique deal with HireBus where you can buy individual assessments. So you get your first one for yourself for free, but if you want to get individual assessments, you can buy them a la carte through our link in the school group, because their default model is a subscription. So if you want to kind of try it out with maybe one round of hiring or whatever, give that a go. But yeah, I find it's really helpful to, even beyond like working out who's a good fit for the role, just working out what you need to be aware of and opening up conversations with people and saying, okay, so like according to this, like you're outside of the river of like the behavior traits in this area. And so what that's going to mean in this role, like these like some areas of friction. And this is how that may apply in a typical day. So then when you open up those kinds of conversations and you have that conversation which we would normally have at the interview stage. So they've scored high enough and everything's gone well enough at that point that we're still considering them, but we can have very nuanced conversations and really paint the picture and involve them in that conversation. And if they like if the picture that I'm painting, like a realistic picture that I'm painting of the job, is then now like not appealing to them, they'll see themselves off because they don't want the job anymore, right? So it really like helps to inform the conversation to get like kind of a good fit from both sides ahead of actually onboarding this person and spending a bunch of money training them and having them around and hanging around just long enough to figure out that actually, you know what, I actually really don't like this role and this is a problem for me. So
no, that's a great point. That is a part of it that we use as well, where it can tell you, it gives you some of the sample questions based on like they scored high or low in certain areas, and that's actually been really helpful because when someone is not decisive or they're very high criticality or whatever the thing is that we're looking for, it really does paint that, and we can ask them those like really pointed questions in the interview to try to flesh out further, like, hey, is this spot on for this person? Can they tell me like how this is something they've been working on, or that it won't be an issue in a role that requires them to be highly proactive. So yeah, I really like that about HireBus, in addition to seeing what roles they could be good fits for. So it's been an awesome tool. We've been using it for, I don't know, probably a year and a half, 2 years now. And it really has made a big difference in finding those people that are better fits. Yeah.
And you'd mentioned just now about like the speed of execution, and then in our previous conversation you'd mentioned about like especially I think this year or recently you'd had a big focus on speed to lead. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, what changes have you made, and what impact have you seen?
So I think that one of the biggest changes we've made this year is getting estimates from pictures. Like basically the last 3-4 years, we were going out to pretty much every single job, trying to talk to the customer, walk the property, get our own photos. And we just found that because geographically, a lot of our customers are spread out. And so it ended up being a lot of drive time, taking us a while to get out to these customers. And it could take a week to 7 days to get an estimate. And that just doesn't work in a world where we all have are used to Amazon giving us same day or 1 day shipping. People don't want to wait that long. So we've switched to doing a lot from photos and Google. And most of the time we can do that. And a lot of times we're asking the customer for those photos. And we already used Company Cam for all of our photos, which was really nice. And they now have a feature where you can give someone guest access. And then all the customer has to do is click the link that gets texted to them, put in their email to verify it's them, and they can just upload photos straight away there. So it's frictionless for them. The pictures are higher quality than if they try to text the photos to us. And that's been really, really nice. Customers have done it without any issues. Your older customers, we still probably have to go out to the job site to look at it most time, especially for like windows. But for roof cleaning, for anything we can kind of measure from Google, we do it from there. And what we're finding is it might be a little bit off, a little bit high, a little bit low in some cases, but because we're not spending all that time driving around and we are getting to them faster, we're able to convert better than we were in the past. And I don't necessarily have the numbers in front of me, but I heard the stats from some studies. I think it was from some people at Stanford that were talking about if you reply to a customer within 5 minutes, you were like 100 times more likely to get that business. And then it measured it on like an hour basis, and then so on and so on. So if we can get somebody an estimate, I think within 24 hours, we're going to be extremely more likely to get that work than if we had to wait 5 days or 7 days, because at that point, they're probably talking to other companies or lose interest in the bid.
Yeah, 100%. You kind of have to assume that your customers have the attention span of a squirrel, and they make their inquiry, and if you don't get back to them right then and there, they're watching a show on Netflix. They've gone to the gym, whatever it is. They've moved on, and then when that message comes back or that call comes in later, they're like, oh yeah, I did want that, didn't I? Do I still want that? It's like Their focus has shifted. So 100%. This is a really interesting topic because I feel like in industry groups like Facebook industry groups and stuff, you'll see this a lot where people kind of discuss like, who's doing in person, who's doing from photos. And I think there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer. From my perspective, it's kind of like, you can have, and this is not to say that you can't have a premium experience without like doing an in-person quote, but just, McDonald's has a working business model, and there's also, really fancy 5-star restaurants that have a working business model, but their business models are not the same. Mm-hmm. And what we found in trying to build this out, like we basically do a very similar thing to you, Josh, where we have, if we can at all, by any possible means, do the quote without going there in person, we will. But sometimes you can't. You have an older client or whatever, or just like some factors that it's like, we want to see this first because this this sounds a bit off. It sounds suspect. But when that happens, system B, whatever is the non-dominant system, just has more friction because that's not what we're optimized for most of the time. Mm-hmm. So whatever we're doing most of the time is going to just be a more seamless experience. And we've opted the same as you have for that to be just getting this done as fast as possible. And then when we have to go in person, the entire system around that happens to be a little bit more clunky. But on the flip side, they do also get that in-person, human contact, which is super valuable, especially the more AI-ified everything gets. So even if it is a bit clunky, it's clunky and human. So I don't know. I think it could be worse, but that's just, it's a whole rabbit hole that people are kind of constantly on the fence about, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think one thing that we've done to make it a little bit more human is included a video walkthrough of the quote as we send with the quote. And so not just getting them an email, right? Because then they're just looking at a price and comparing it to the other company. But if they get a 3 to 5 minute video, try to keep it relatively short, of us with pictures of their job, highlighting certain things, talking them through what we're going to do, how we're going to protect their plants that they stressed about, how we're going to make sure that we don't damage their pool cover with our solution, all of those things, it goes a long way. And I can't tell you how many people this year have told us, hey man, thanks for the video, really appreciate it, or wow, cool video. They just mentioned the video specifically. And I think it really adds that and kind of helps bridge that gap between not going in person and meeting them.
Yeah, that's interesting because we also tried that. And we no longer do it. Like my experience is not the same with that. In that, what we found was that the effort, the return on investment was just not there for us because the effort involved, the time spent. We found that whilst we did get some people that mentioned it and whatever, for the most part, it was not enough of a shift. We didn't see the shift in terms of the conversion rates enough to justify continuing to do it. But that's interesting. Like, what do you think are the key ingredients that make your videos work?
Yeah, we just keep them simple, keep them short. So I don't want it to be a big burden for the team. I don't want them to have to take multiple takes. It needs to be like a conversation. So if they mess up as they're explaining, it's just the same as if they were on the phone with the customer talking to them, but it's just now one-sided. And we just take a screen recording, show them photos, talk through some parts of the project, reassure them of what's going to be going on. We're not actually walking through the bid in per se. We're more of just telling what we're going to do, the value we're going to provide, and then they can look at the pricing later. And so, just not make it a huge extra thing for the team. So it takes them 2 minutes. It's honestly the same thing as if they were going to call them, but way shorter because then the customer asks 100 more questions.
Yeah. It's just it's better than a voicemail. It's there for them later, but it's visual.
Yes.
Do you just use Loom for that, or what are you using?
Just Loom.
Yeah.
And which Loom is a crazy high ROI tool. I mean, we make tons of videos with it, and it costs us $20 a month to do it. Yeah. And so it's one of those ones where I'm like, this is a subscription that I would be one of the last ones that I would cut if I had to.
Yeah, I'll have to look into this because I think one of the areas where we had a bit more friction with this in our process was because we were doing this in conjunction with Responsibid. I don't know
Okay.
if how you're presenting quotes and stuff, but Responsibid has a feature where you can have like you can embed a video into the quote. So like on their quote screen, it's
Sure.
like right above and whatever, like all that, which is great. However, I need to check this. I don't know if this is true currently. As far as I know, at least when we did it, you, I think that had to be a YouTube link, or if it didn't, it might have been a few other things. We couldn't just do a direct loom. So the process had to include the video. The video then had to be downloaded, uploaded, and then the link. So it's like just a couple of extra steps, which is realistically like another like 2 to 5 minutes or something to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a bit of friction. It's a bit of a hassle.
Oh yeah.
Slows things down. So
Responsibid, we use that too. We use it more of just a presentation tool than actually using all the calculation that it does in there. So my team's really good at just kind of manually calculating it, getting the price pretty quickly. So just plug it into Responsibid. So the presentation looks really good. But yeah, we're not putting the video in Responsibid at all. Just so they essentially get 2 links in the email. Hey, check out this first link. It explains the bid. Here's the second link. Here's your bid, and keep it super simple.
We might give this a go.
Yeah, trying it out again. Yeah,
just separate it from. I guess it's just like we tried it there because it's like, well, there's a place for it. Like, why don't we do this? Why don't we have custom and walk through things here and blah, blah, blah. But I'll suss that out. If like I said, maybe now they even support Loom, which would be great. But I don't know. So all of that said, within the team, right? So there's kind of a few elements to like speed to lead and the impact that has. How would you say that has affected the culture of the team doing things that way? Because it sounds, I guess what I'm driving at is it sounds to me like you are focusing on speed to execution of things and then speed to lead. So there's kind of this speed element that's going to be like rippling through various elements of the culture of the team and just like that feeling in the team that things are just moving. Have you felt that? What's been the impact of just changes generally within the culture of the team?
I think because we're still so new to it and we don't have everything dialed in terms of like, hey, a strict 24-hour turnaround or, those types of metrics that would maybe add a sense of anxiety to someone who's not as fast. It's just been all positive. So my team loves the fact that they're not driving, 30 minutes one way to a bid and then 30 minutes back or spending all day in the car driving around. They can get the pictures they need.
Yeah, that kind of thing is funny because like, I'm just going to like little side tangent here. I know that like our team appreciates that as well. And I just don't understand it because it's like, you guys get paid for this. Like chuck some tunes on, listen to a podcast. Like this sounds amazing. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, I think it could just be draining when you're like, hey, I got to get, 10 estimates done today. And you drive around to do 10 estimates, but you spend all your time driving around and then you don't get to send them all out. And then the next day so it just feels like everything takes way, way longer. And I totally get that, but it is nice being in the car and I don't get any car time for podcasts or just driving. But with this, I think that it's been positive. I think the team likes, it's not draining because you turn out estimates so quick that the customers are happy. They see the estimates convert quicker. I think that there's less follow-up with the customer because the customer is getting this soon after they ask for it versus like a week or 2 weeks after. And it can be kind of draining to see some customers sitting in the pipeline for that long before getting the estimate sent out. So overall, so far, it's been just really, really positive. And recently we just got someone into that role just to be solely focused on as estimates come in, they're turning them out really quickly. So that's been less than a week. So I'm excited to see in a month how we're doing on turning those estimates out, like what our average time is to get an estimate out.
Yeah. Nice. Hey, I've just got a question from my notes, which this is a brand new question. It's just occurred to me as I'm like looking at the information that I have about you. But if I'm not mistaken, your oldest is like 4, right?
Yes. Yep. We turned 4 in March.
Did you take the business on or you joined onto the business 4 years ago?
Yeah. Yep. So he was born, I started in January and then he was born in March.
Yeah. Okay. So at that point, what was your role in the business?
I don't know. We've made up titles since I joined, but I think it was like I was the like chief operations officer, whatever you want to call it, and I had just kind of a wide range of tasks at that point. It wasn't just operations, but yeah, that's kind of where I was, and my mom was the CEO, and my dad did everything that he was doing. So,
and how long ago was it that you guys bought the business?
so just the end of last year was like the official. So 4 years after starting, it was like the official purchase date, I guess you would call it, and then transitioning into CEO in January. So
yeah, okay. So just with that, like combining, family and business, that mixes up to a lot of firsts, right? So there's a lot like going on there on the family front, figuring out how like what kids mean, and all of that. How have you found juggling that all together over the last few years?
yeah, definitely has been a challenge for sure. Figuring out how to parent, Molly and I figuring out how to parent for the first time, as well as trying to learn this business. And I think work-life balance has always kind of just been a struggle for me because I have that achiever part of me that just wants to get everything done, to work harder, and sometimes I can work a lot of hours. So rewind, before working here, I worked at Amazon for 5 years. And so you can imagine a super fast paced environment and a lot of hours, and it's easy to kind of overcommit yourself, I think, and work a ton of hours. And so I think I did that. And then coming to the business, it's also easy to overcommit yourself because you see this big vision of what you want to accomplish, and you're like, I'm going to do it all now. And so I've been trying to work on keeping a good balance there. And I think I do overall. I mean, I'm not working, 60-hour weeks by any means, but it's just kind of pacing yourself and also managing your stress levels in a really good way, in a really healthy way. And then doing that with your family. But I think if you'd ask my family, I think I do a pretty good job of being able to come home, play with the boys, forget about work, take care of my family, be present. And that's something I've worked really hard at too, is putting the phone away, not getting on my computer at night for work stuff, and just kind of being present with the family, and then knowing, hey, 7 a.m. tomorrow, I'll get back at it. But in the meantime, let's just be present and enjoy being at home.
Do you have any kind of like switching hats, switching roles kind of rituals, or any like, you just mentioned, not being on the phone, putting the phone away. Do you have like a specific, it's 5:30, the work phone's going in this drawer, or like anything like that?
I will put my phone in the drawer sometimes, especially when it's been a long day. And I'm like, I just don't even want to see any notification or any phone call. I don't care who it is. I will do that because there is that sense of, if you're in the room as your phone, even if you're not directly by it, you're thinking like, do I have a notification? Do I need to go check it? So there's this element of, if you put it away, it kind of alleviates that a little bit. But I do try to do that. I usually try to, like, maybe 5 minutes before I have to leave work, like turn on some kind of music and then just shut my laptop and then just kind of reflect and just, I don't know, get some time to disconnect from work, because I only live 5 minutes away from work. So there's no drive time to decompress. And sometimes it is hard to transition from work mode to home mode without your mind continue, running and thinking about work. So I did try to build in a little bit of that time, but sometimes it still takes me a while to decompress when I get home and I'm still thinking about work stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to do that. Or what about this? And sometimes my wife has to tell me, like, you just need to like shut it off. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And that's the other thing. Like, I feel like doing that decompression before you leave work in that equation is really helpful, because no doubt as soon as you get home, like, Molly is just kind of going to be like, the cavalry's arrived, like, great. Like, I'm just, this is like my semi-relief from the 9-hour shift that I've just done. So
no, and absolutely. And it's such a weird thing, because I totally view her job as like just as hard as mine, if not harder, right? Being home with the boys, there's just so much that goes into it, taking care of the house, cooking all the meals. And it's this weird element of like, I'm exhausted from my day, but now I'm actually, like, my day is kind of starting when I get home. And so I need to like shift into a second gear because she needs relief. She needs a break from the boys. And so I definitely need to make sure I can do that and can give her a little bit of a breathing room. So I'll try to take them outside. That's usually the most helpful for her, is like, hey, we'll just go outside and play. And then she can kind of do what she needs to do without interruptions and get some quiet time there. But it's a lot. I mean, young kids, I mean, it's exhausting. I never realized how tiring it is. I never thought I'd be the person to want to go to bed at 9 p.m. because I'm just exhausted from the day, but that's how it goes.
Yeah, I don't know. I frequently, I would love to read to our kids more at night as like a bedtime thing, but like I'm just a liability because I will probably fall asleep reading before they do, right? So, and then that just releases children. It's like, oh great, well now that he's done, we're gonna go play, and so then they may wake up the baby, and my wife will be like, oh, fell asleep again, you know. So I don't know. That's. Yeah, well, it's just one of those things. I didn't expect to be so tired, but
and I expected the kids to, you get through that stage of like, hey, they're going to sleep when I want them to go to sleep, great. But then a year later, all of a sudden now they're not sleeping. Like my 4-year-old won't go to sleep at night, and so it takes an hour before you finally get him down, and then he wakes up in the middle of the night. And I don't know, you get to this point where you think that you're going to be done with like the sleepless nights, and they come back, and that's just exhausting. So I totally get that. But the reading to your kids at night is like such a admirable thing to do, but it doesn't always work out, especially when they're not interested in the book or you fall asleep.
Yeah. I've got a book on the shelf just behind me, which it is called The Wonder Weeks. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
I haven't heard of that one.
It's basically like it's interesting. It's interesting. I find it to be completely impractical, but it is interesting. It's just talking about like the developmental leaps that kids have. So it's the Wonder Weeks, and like from when they're born. Week 1 is like this. Week 2, week 3, blah blah blah. I can't remember how far forward it goes, but the reason I think it's completely impractical is that at least for the first little while, each of those weak things, like the thing that can happen, like the developmental leap here, where they're now going to need to sleep more or less, or they're going to drop a nap, or this or that's going to happen, there's a margin of error where, for all intents and purposes, what it boils down to is that anything can and will happen at any given point in time. But you have all of this information, but your child, they might actually like do this 3 weeks earlier and this 3 weeks later, and so you wouldn't know.
Oh man, yeah, that's.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see that though. I'd have to check that out because I wonder, depending on how far it goes out, where some of our boys are. Because you have these weird leaps and regressions and all of that. But yeah, that'd be frustrating where you're looking and they're actually like 6 months earlier or farther on the timeline than what you're looking at, and so nothing matches up.
But yeah, what you just said kind of just reminded me of that, where it's like you think, oh great, well now they're going to sleep when they're supposed to, and it's like that lasts like for this brief window of time, and then it's like, wait, hold on, didn't you used to sleep?
Yeah,
I'm sure you used to sleep. Like that was a thing that you did, right?
Well, my oldest used to be an amazing sleeper. Nap times and bedtime, I mean, he would just sleep and sleep and sleep, and it was amazing. And then our second wasn't like that at all. But then our oldest just had this weird change and now won't sleep at all and doesn't sleep through the night. And so that's gone. And that was, that was complete fiction.
It's like the ultimate form of gaslighting. It's like, this is our good sleeper. Who? Where?
Yeah, no, but it's good. But I mean, we love having, 2 boys, 2 crazy boys, and one change for the world. And and being a parent is obviously way better than you think it's going to be. So definitely one of my top priorities is just taking care and raising 2 strong boys.
Yeah. It changes you. It challenges you. They shine a mirror directly at you so much of the time as well. Hey.
Yeah.
I find like myself. I always catch myself speaking too soon and setting this like arbitrary rule. Like I've drawn the line in the sand, and as I'm drawing it, I'm like, I don't think that's the hill I want to die on, but I said it now and I don't want to be inconsistent. And I feel like we're about to fight about this thing, which I've kind of already decided that we should probably let go.
Yeah. Yeah. No, man, it really does. It really highlights some of your best qualities and some of your worst qualities. And just, you're constantly being refined and being a parent and being challenged. I mean, I don't know. I think that's what I found out is like just life is a lot more gray than what you think it is. You think that everything's so black and white, and then you get put in the situation and you're like, oh, well, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. And who knows if this is going to be the right answer, but I think it's the best possible answer at this point in time.
Yeah, that's it. You just got to do the best you can with the information that you have. Yeah. So what would you tell your pre-marriage self about marriage?
Oh man. I don't know if my wife is listening to this or not, but I think that it's just one of those things where like it's going to be better than you ever imagined it would be. And also I think it's just going to be harder and different than what you think, because things just go in waves. I think that there's just a lot of really great seasons. There's a lot of really hard seasons, especially with parenting. There's times where you feel like passing ships and we were just kind of, just trying to make it through the day sometimes. But I think you just got to continually work at making your relationship a priority. Like we talk about all the time how we don't want the kids to be the priority. We want to prioritize each other. And I think that's where you get some of those people when the kids move out, then they don't really know each other and they're not really friends and they don't really love each other. And so that's always in the front of our mind, is figuring out how to do that and make those intentional moments with each other. I think humility is something that I've been learning a lot more, that I'm a lot more prideful and stubborn than I realized I was. And so just making sure that, hey, you don't know it all. You need to just be way more humble. And then when my wife points out something that I need to work on, just receiving that and applying it, because 9 times out of 10, it's dead on. And she sees me for who I am and who I want to be. And I'm not always aware of that. I think, a lot of blind spots definitely get revealed in marriage. And so I think that just being ready for that, and it's all good stuff, but you just have to be ready to kind of take it and apply it and just keep getting better. But I think marriage just takes a lot of intentionality. I think that's the word that I would just choose there, is if you're not intentional about it, life's just going to kind of fill in the gaps and your time's going to get sucked up between, church and business and all the different things that you have in life. And if you don't carve out those times for date night and, playing a card game with your spouse, or just hanging out intentionally, you're going to sit in front of the TV and it's not really quality time and your time's going to get sucked up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. So something that I feel like Michaela and I have learned recently is just how vastly differently we think in certain ways, which is interesting because like we are very much on the same page. We're very cohesive. Like I feel like I would have a pretty good bet at being able to like figure out what she would say or think about a given situation. As a hypothetical, like I think I'd be pretty on point. But just more recently, we've kind of discovered that whilst we might be on point more or less with the answer, like the conclusion, if you actually go back and you do the workings and you see where the one was carried, it's like that thought process that leads to that conclusion is vastly different in our two heads than what we had thought. And just like the way that we perceive things and the things that we value, or prioritize in terms of like, what matters in making a decision and that kind of stuff. Which has just been really illuminating to like kind of realize that, oh wow, like I thought I knew more about you than I did. But it's like we just kind of learn and grow together and see like some of that behind the scenes, like, that's how you arrive at this conclusion. That's weird.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I think, it's not making assumptions about like what you think the other person is thinking or how they're going to arrive at the same conclusion. I mean, my wife and I have known each other for 15 years and, been married for 10. And she says to this day, you wouldn't think that we were been together that long, because you still act like you don't know me in certain situations. And it's just because I think maybe I'm making assumptions about about how she is going to like respond or act. I don't know, but it's just way more intricate, I think, than sometimes what we realize. And just got to keep continually working at it. I mean, there's no perfect way, but I think that's what makes it fun, I guess, right? You think after 15 years, if I knew every single thing about Molly, then there's no mystery left. There's no growth left. And there's still a lot of that left. So it's an upward trajectory. You know, it's going to be the rest of our lives on an upward slope.
Yeah. And same question, but with kids, like what would you tell your pre-kid self about kids?
Get sleep while you can. I mean, that is the crux of it, because
stockpile, store up for the winter.
Yeah, store up. Can you stockpile it? Yeah, I think that it's as rewarding as you think it will be. It's probably harder than you think it will be, but it's completely worth it. And like, I wouldn't change it for the world. You know, it wouldn't change the sleepless nights or all the work or the chaos that's in the house for not having those things. And so it's so much fun. I think that it's worth every hard thing that comes with it. And there's nothing that I would tell my younger self or pre-kid self to do differently, other than maybe just prepare for the lack of sleep and the hard things that come, but all the joy that's going to come with that. And I mean, it's crazy how you don't get enough time with your spouse. So you're like, let's make a date night and let's go out and just get away from the kids. And then the first thing you talk about on your date night is the kids, because you just love your kids that much and you're thinking about them. And it's just a weird dynamic between like, I need a break from them, but as soon as I have a break, I'm like, okay, what are they doing? I miss them. You know, it's just a very strange thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the sleepless nights comment, reminded me, I was saying to Michaela the other week that we sometimes in the morning, like I'll just be, you know, making a coffee, and then like a child just appears, just like, you know, come out, they're working up, and it kind of reminds me of like having a sleepover, and there's these random people in your house, and they just like progressively emerge. There's just like there's more of them like that keep coming, but it's like, these are our people, you know. Yeah. But it's still kind of random. It's like, oh yeah, you're here, great. Yeah. Like, now, you know, we're gonna want some cereal soon or something. But like, it's fun. It's really fun if you let it be, even when it's, you know, it can also be very very tiring and all those other things as well. But yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah. You gotta just make sure your mindset is in the right place and knowing like what your priorities are. And so you can just kind of laugh at the situation that you're in. You're like, this is ridiculous. We're in the middle of the night, like bouncing between kids' rooms that won't sleep, and we're not getting any sleep. This is just insanity. But I'm sure down the road we'll look back to the season and, you know, miss these little kids who like we were their whole world, and now they just want to go hang out with their friends, right? So it's all that give and take that I think oftentimes we can just wish away. You can wish, hey, I want to get to the point where they're sleeping well or they're potty trained. And then that season comes, and then you're wishing for something else to happen instead of just enjoying the moment and the season that you're in with the good and the bad.
Yeah. It's like you might be, and the sad part about that is that you might be wishing it away for something like very mundane and trivial. Like I'm wishing that away so that I can have this time to read a book, or to implement some system in the business, or to, you know, scroll on Facebook or something. Like you might want like this individual little moment of time to yourself to like recoup, which is like super important so that you can be present. But yeah, at the same time, you can catch yourself kind of, as you said, wishing away like these big broad moments that are so much more valuable than the thing that you would actually be working on.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Just as a quick plug as well for the school group, there will be a Epic Childhood Builder Challenge free within the free school group, link in the description. Check that out. It's brand new. Anyway, back to this conversation. Any final closing thoughts with regards to family, business, journey so far? What's else is happening for 2025? What's going on in the world with your business and your family?
Yeah, I mean, just with family, just being intentional. I think my mindset is kind of shifting from, hey, I just want to grow this like big business to accomplish whatever these arbitrary goals that I have are, and hey, how can I use my business as a way to be there for my family more, to kind of reach some of these family goals that I have and do it in a more sustainable way than maybe what I have done in the past. And I just want to make sure it's a life-giving and it's worth it. And so I think I'm just kind of reorienting my priorities a little bit. And instead of saying like, hey, I'm like, let's just throw out, hey, I'm going to grow my business to $5 million in revenue so that X, Y, and Z can happen. What is my actual goal for myself and for my family? And maybe that changes my growth path for the business or, who I have on the team. And there's a lot there that I'm kind of working through. So that's very fresh and new. So I don't necessarily have any clear cut, things there, but that's just kind of where my mind's heading. And then I think in 2025, as far as the business goes, I mean, even in family, like I'm finding ways to use AI. And I know that's a hot topic. We don't need to necessarily get into everything there, but like trying to find ways to use that and keep up with that because it's changing so quickly. But like I've even used it, in terms of my relationship, like, hey, I know my wife is an Enneagram 2. Like help me understand like how to better communicate with her, right? Or like how to phrase this. And that's actually been really helpful because it actually then helps me kind of meet her where she's at versus me trying to like work through my whole thoughts there. I have like a tool that can be helpful there. And then even in the business, there's just a ton that we're doing with it. I mean, my whole team uses it, but just keeping up with that because it really does simplify the work that we do and make us more, just make everything better and more efficient. But it's so much to keep up with. You really have to be on it because it's shifting so quickly.
Yeah. An interesting thing that an exercise that we did a while ago, I heard this on like a personalities podcast. It was like that they had people write in like from their audience to describe a visual of like what does your brain look like? And people were describing all sorts of things like, mine is like a filing cabinet in a tornado, or it's a forest, and like on the trees there's these like jars of fireflies or whatever, like all these like random things. Like some of them are just like, it's like, what are you even trying to convey? But we did that. We described that, and we found that like really helpful in terms of just understanding how we think. Like how each other think, and we like kind of refer back to that like actually quite frequently. As I'm saying that, I'm like thinking about it. It's become like a common thing, just that visual of like what's going on in the brain. Yeah, and it is really it's scary. Just like kind of circling back to like the AI thing, it is scary how accurate that kind of intuition about like a person can be, especially like when it's just information that you've given it, like from like, as opposed to like saying, oh, like my wife is this personality type or in this category or whatever. Saying that, what like there's prompts that people are using like to get AI to like coach them or to like uncover your deep fears, that sort of stuff based on the conversations that you've had. And it's like, man, this is like super accurate. It's like crazy how much it's like.
Oh yeah, No, it's scary how accurate it is, and I don't know where it's all going to go. But in the moment, like I'm finding it helpful, so I'm like I'm going to use it, but it's also probably going to backfire someday because it's going to go in a very scary direction, and it knows way too much about me. But in the moment, it's actually been really, really helpful. And some of those times where you do those, I've done a few of those prompts, and I'm like, hey, tell me like what are my core like fears as a leader and all that, and then it comes back. I'm like, wow, that's actually really, really accurate and actually super useful as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, thanks very much. Sorry for like the random rabbit holes and things that we've chased there, Josh. But it's been a really good conversation. Thanks for jumping on, and great chatting with you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Mark, for having me. It's been a lot of fun, and thanks so much.
Are you picking up what I'm laying down? Are you sniffing what I'm stepping in? If you're looking for a really valuable community centered around building your business, being really intentional with your spouse and kids, and if you think you can tolerate my terrible dad jokes, then join Family-Oriented Business Growers. It's awesome. There's self-paced challenges designed to help you solve key pain points within your business in short, intentional sprints. There's awesome people in there doing awesome things who have experience with stuff that can help you, having stood where you stand. You'll benefit from what's in there, we'll benefit from having you in there, you legend you, and best of all, it's totally free and also free of toxic shenanigans because we don't tolerate none of that. The mission of the group is to help 250 family-oriented home service business owners reclaim 5 hours per week for what matters most whilst growing their business this year. So jump in there and get amongst it. Join via warplan.au, that's warplan.au. Oh no. He's early. Warplan.au. Catch you in there.